Assalamu alaikum. I am happy that we have arrived the fourth lecture now. This conversation is based on the idea of Rumi's knowledge. What's knowledge? In our previous lecture, we had talked about body and soul. This duality continues throughout the Mathnawi, which by this I mean that he has two kinds of knowledge, one the spiritual, the other physical. Also he has intellect and wisdom. Intellect is physical and the spiritual. Similarly, love. Love is also individual and spiritual. We shall talk about this later on, about the individualities. Now I start, what does he say about knowledge, the first verses? İlm-i ehl-i dil hammal-i-şan, ilm-i ehl-i tan ahmal-i-şan. Bir daha, özür dilerim. İlm-i ehl-i dil hammal-i-şan, ilm-i ehl-i tan ahmal-i-şan. علم چون بر دل زند یاری بود علم چون بر تن زند باری بود علم های اهل دل حمالشان. The lover of God's knowledge carries them, gives them the great fruit, while the knowledge of the physical people who are found of world, are physical people, they become burden. The knowledge becomes burden on them. İlmi çun bar dil zanad yari bevad. When knowledge is applied to your heart, it becomes a good friend. And when it's applied for the physical purposes, it becomes a big burden. This is what Rumi is saying. Knowledge is the source of wisdom. خاتم ملک سلیمان است علم جمله عالم صورت و جان است علم. What he says is this: the seal of kingdom of Solomon is knowledge. The whole universe is form, while its essence is knowledge. The seeker of knowledge منبع حکمت شود حکمت طلب فارغ آید او the seeker of wisdom becomes source of wisdom himself. There is no need of other sources. Freeing him from education and reasoning boredom. You can be bored by reading, speaking, and writing. You get rid of it. You become completely free with the spiritual knowledge. And he says, let me explain this. The seal of the kingdom of knowledge refers to Solomon's ring, which had a magical effect. So if you have the other knowledge, invisible knowledge, non-dimensional knowledge, there is no need of learning, reading books. And Rumi continues, عقل دو عقل است اول مکسبی که در آموزی چو در مکتب سبی. He says that the intellect is of two kinds. The first one is that you learn at schools by studying, go to college and learn it. لوح محفوظ باشی اندر دور دور گشت. By the time you become a hafiz, you memorize everything. But this is only memorizing. Lawh mahfuz is best. But the kind of knowledge is like a lawh mahfuz, protected one. Ke u azim darguzasht. When you pass away from this knowledge, you get to the other knowledge, which is not, which doesn't depend on memorizing, just memory. Aql digar bakhshish yazdan bavad. The other wisdom is God-given thing. It's a boon from God. Chashmaya Dharmayoni Janbabat, its sources in the life, in yourself. And you don't have to go to school or anything. Pardon, buraya duraklıyoruz, atladık. Yes. Başlıyorum. Yes. Rumi, to show the difference of these two knowledge, Rumi brings in a story about the boatman and a scholar. This scholar is an expert of grammar, which in Arabic is sarf al-nahw. So he's a great scholar of the grammar. He wants to pass the river, cross the river, and goes to a boatman, and he's on board. When he's on board the boat, he asks the boatman, "Have you ever studied grammar?" The boatman said, "No, sir, how could I? I know only about the sea, water, and all these things." Time passed. After some little time, storm broke out. And this time, the boatman asked the scholar, "Do you know swimming, sir?" He said, "No, I never learned swimming." "No, it's the big problem. I wish you had learned swimming. So instead of reading Nahv, you could study Mahv." You know, Mahv is a word in the Sufi term. We call Mahv ul-Mak in Turkish, or in Arabic, al-Mahw. Sarf Mahw means to become non-existent. So instead of learning so much about grammar, which is Sarf al-Nahw, you could learn how to be Mahw, to be a lover of God, and then you will not be afraid of death or anything else. And Rumi, I think, himself experienced this, because he says, "Shadam ke az shadi jahan azadam, mastam ke agar mi nakhuram ham shadam." I am happy now that I have freed myself from the happiness of the world, and mastam, and I am drunk, intoxicated without drinking wine. As halati hiç kas nadaram bayast. I don't worry what people say, because I am happy with this state, that I'm drunk without drinking anything. Then he says, "Khamush ke az in ashk o az in ilm ladunash, az madrisa o kaghoz o takrar rahidim." Be silent and be happy, because due to this love and the spiritual knowledge, we have set ourselves free from the school papers and repetition and exams. So when you learn the divine knowledge, you don't need any exams, papers like you do in the school. That's what Rumi is saying. He's talking about the Sufi knowledge. Har kira bashad, and now this time he says that how this happens to you. Har kira bashad zasina fatibab, uza har zarra binad aftab. He who has a door open in his chest, he can see God's light through smallest atoms. In every atom, you can find God's phenomena, His manifestation. This is very interesting, that when you look at the atom, there is an action, electron, proton, neutrons, and down to the smallest atoms. There is a big action. And you can see the light of God, which means the power of God there, how it is acting. Okay, then he says, love of God is required to attain His light. The biggest thing which is required for love of God is the light of God. Through the light of God, you can discover many things of non-dimensional world. Hak feshanada nur ra bar janha. God is always showering on the spirits His light. But if you have no skirt to receive it, you will not receive it, naturally. So you have to desire for it. و آن نثار نور را او یافته روی از غیر خدا برتافته. The one who finds this light on his skirt, he forgets everything other than God's face. He looks only at God. That's all. And then, to have that skirt of love, one needs to learn the divine knowledge first, of course. بی علم نمیتانی که پیو کشی روغن به نگر تو در آن علمی که ز پیو نظر سازد. This is very interesting, that Rumi, how could he ever know that there is aqueous humor in our eyes, the fat, the fluid that is in the middle of in the ball of our eyes. He says that, haven't you noticed that there is oil in the eye, and you can make oil out of fat? That also needs some knowledge, but there's another kind of knowledge which God is using, and God gives this oil vision. You can see through it what the others can't see, perhaps. And this kind of seeing is a divine magic power. And then we come to Talab Bahari Nishan. He says that the sign of this knowledge here is up to the ocean. But when you go into ocean, it finishes. There are no step left, prince of steps. Then I will skip this one. Now he says that Hak padid ast az mayane digaran hamchu mah andar mayane akhtaran. God is visible like the moon among the stars. But if you put your two fingers on your eyes, you don't see the physical things either. So be justice, do justice. If you can't see this world because you have fingers on your eyes, then just take them off. And if you can't see the other world, it doesn't mean that the other world doesn't exist. Try to see it. So he keeps on going, and beautiful verse comes, from him. Hey, mashon omid, nur az asaman, hak chu khakhat mirasat dar yak zaman. Please, don't be disappointed. When God wants you to receive that light, He sends you. How? Gives the example. This is very interesting. Please notice. 3000 sal o 500 da zuhur. From the Saturn, it's about 2,500 miles. Very interesting point. But dam badam khasiyatash awrad amal. But in action, it has an effect, impact. What impact? Now, the modern science knows that Saturn keeps the meteors away from the Earth and protects it. But that's the action, one of action, sorry. And interesting, of course, Ruby continues, خاک و باد و آب و آتش بنده اند با من و تو مرده با حق زنده اند. خاک و باد و the four elements, the clay, the air, the water and fire, although they may look dead to us, they are alive with God. We observe things with our eyes. God is not forced to use any eyes or anything. He is not bound to it. He sees everything without eyes. So everything is open to Him. And now the science is discovering many new things too. Zarra zarra ashikane an jamal Mishitabat der elu hamchuni hal. Every atom in love with God's beauty. Every atom loves God's beauty. They rise upwards quickly like the twigs of the tree. They are all in action. The neutron, protons and all that. And quantum, of course. They are in action. They're looking for God. The creative power with them. And صد چو عالم در نظر پیدا کند چون که چشمت را با خود بینا کند. When God opens your spiritual eyes, He makes you see hundreds of universes, discover new things. This world may look very large to you, but in a matter of fact, it looks like a small atom for God. It's very small actually. Ilm و hikmet zayed az lukmay halal. Light of knowledge and wisdom are born of lawful morsels. And if you don't have lawful morsels, you cannot receive light of God. If you are bribing, doing illegal things, you earning money by illegal means, forget. God's light will not find you. If the morsels are seeds, ideas are their fruits. If morsels are ocean and pearls, they are ideas. And Rumi brings in a very interesting story, which is famous in the Indian history and mythology, that is about the elephant in the darkness. In a village in India, there was no elephant. People wanted to see what is elephant. So they requested the municipality officer to provide them with an elephant. He did that. He brought an elephant, but when he arrived, the elephant arrived in a village, it was dark night. So they put him in a big hall, stall in other words, and waited for the morning. And there were 4 curious people who wanted to sneakily get in and see what's the elephant before the others could see. So they went in, but they had no light. One touched the trunk of the animal and said, it's a water pipe kind of animal. The other one looked at touched his ears and said, wow, it's a big fan. And that's all then. And another one touched the legs of the elephant and said, it's like a column of a building, huge building. And the one who climbed up the elephant said, it's like a throne, a big throne for sitting, etc., etc. They talked according to their visions. But they didn't look at through the eyes. They were touching it only with palms. So the palms had that feeling. Finally, Rumi says that if there was a man with a light or lamp in his hand, he would have shown the elephant as a whole. And the secrets will disappear. So is divine power. You cannot see it as a whole if you don't have the vision, spiritual vision. Thank you very much.